Welcome to another episode of Chat Sports Talk, and welcome to Week 10 of 2024 NFL season. Already past the halfway mark. We're down to the final stretch, the last 8 weeks of the season, to really see how teams kind of rack and stack. Who's going to take charge of the West, NFC South, and is Kansas City going to remain undefeated? There's a lot of burning questions flowing out there. We'll see how things transpire. But before we go over that, we're going to go over previous week's action. I'm going to kind of try to do a quick fire round, hit a few games here and there. But let's go ahead and look back at Week 9. Week 9 actually did pretty well. Had one of my better weeks. Went 11-4. I was quite surprised with that one. And it turns out that Thursday night seems to be my bad night picking games. But when it comes to Sunday, I do all right. Last week was no exception. We came to Thursday night. Who the thunk the Jets decided to show up? Houston just couldn't get anything going receiving wise. The defense finally showed up. Looked like they fixed a couple of the off-ball plays they had and actually went out there and were actually very, very effective. Rodgers had a very productive game, 211 yards in the air with 3 touchdowns, especially hitting with Devontae Adams. Garrett Wilson also making a Odell-style catch as well. Probably one of the highlights of the season thus far. There's another one coming up, I think, top stats, because it's a very unique one. But it's just one of these things that the Jets needed this win. They really did, because they were just not clicking in all cylinders. I don't think it's going to transpire for anything else. I think it's a little bit too late for them to hit that next stratosphere. But I think they could make some teams suffer. If Houston's offense was actually more potent than it was, this could be a different story. But in the end, the Texans couldn't get much anything going. The Jets did everything right and ended up winning 21-13. On Sunday, we'll start off in the ATL where the Dallas Cowboys came in, and overall, it was kind of a lackluster game. Fortunately for the Cowboys, Dak is out. He injured himself. He's definitely going to be gone for, I think, like 3-4 weeks, and that's going to really hamper him. The Cowboys have a lot of issues right now. I think next week they might get Micah Parsons back, so that's really helped their defense. But overall, offense is out of sync. They can't run the ball. They can't stop the run. This game they were a little bit more effective against the run because Bijan Robinson only had 86 yards on the ground. So at least the run defense starting to tighten up a bit. Kirk Cousins still able to have over 200 yards passing with 3 touchdowns. So there's still other aspects that Kirk was able to do what he had to do to keep pace and keep the Atlanta Falcons ahead in that AFC South. And maybe that top seed. I mean, that's a far stretch because you got to look who's ahead of them. But you can't count out the Falcons in a deep run for the playoffs. Then Tua's return to Buffalo and the Dolphins really took it to Buffalo. Miami's defense showed up. Buffalo had a hard time getting things transgressing and getting things running around. I mean, after the third quarter, they came back. They get those 2 touchdowns, really take the early lead, and then Miami was able to dominate that final quarter. Allen was able to make a nice drive towards the end, set up a 61-yard game-winning field goal by Tyler Bass, and Buffalo escaped a upset try by the Dolphins. Then we'll go to one of the other games I lost. We'll go to the Music City with Tennessee playing host to New England. I picked New England just because, just New England's just one of these unique teams. You just don't know which version is going to show up. I was thinking the one's going to really transpire, get this team to move in the right direction, and they had a difficult time doing that. but I did pick New England to go in there and win in Tennessee. And Tennessee is doing everything they could to make things happen. Mason Rudolph actually had a very productive game as well for the Titans, 240 yards in the air, 2 touchdowns. It's been a while since he's been the starter. I mean, I remember the days when he used to do it in Pittsburgh when Ben was out for injuries. But then, you had the aspect of, trying to get things going because this is a Titans team that doesn't have one of their receivers anymore. They traded him away. The running back they let walk out the door. It's only Calvin Ridley, really, and Tony Pollard. But Pollard had over 100 yards rushing, so that really helped set the tone and kept the pace. And they were doing things they possibly could, and it was the New England was able to tie the game late in the fourth quarter, send the game to overtime. In overtime, that's when Nick Folk was able to hit a 25-yard field goal. And that was it. Tennessee escaping with a 2017 victory, giving me loss number 2. Head over to the Meadowlands again. This time the Giants playing host the Commanders. And this was a game that I almost went with the Giants on just because of the divisional aspect and the rivalry between these two franchises. And it was looking that way. Early on, it was all Commanders. I mean, they were up 21-7. They had no issues. Dan Daniels ended up having almost 210 yards in the air with 2 touchdowns. And the Giants had this fourth quarter comeback when they put up 12 points, but that was just a little bit too late once again. And the Giants fell short of beating Washington and lost 27-22. And down to Charlotte with another close divisional game. Injury-ridden Saints came into Charlotte to take on the Panthers. And Bryce Young was getting the nod at the start because of the injuries to Andy Dalton. And this one is like I had a hard time picking because of the amount of injuries both these teams had and when these games are being played. I went more with the Saints because of some of the talent on the offense. The defense is actually halfway decent. But in the end, it was Carolina's early. They're not really early, but they were just being feisty. They were just sticking around and taking advantage of some of the miscues that were happening. I mean, Alvin Kamara ended up having over 150 yards on the ground rushing. Derek Carr, over 230 yards in the air, but only 1 touchdown. He wasn't a very effective passer either. Slightly better than 50%, 18-31. But there's definitely issues with that. But Chuba Hubbard for the Panthers had 2 rushing touchdowns. That really helped give Bryce Young in his 20th start a victory as the Panthers got win number 2 for the season and a decent win within the division. But injuries definitely play a huge part in that New Orleans loss. Boy, I'm just getting all my teams mixed up, ain't I? In Philadelphia, the Eagles were up early on Jacksonville, but there's a lot of questionable calls by Sirianni going on 4th and 1 when they shouldn't have. Just should have kicked the ball or doing other weird plays that he was doing things to try to lose. And the defense almost fell apart at the end. It wasn't for a fourth quarter interception in the end zone that sealed the deal for the Jaguars. But the highlight of this game belongs to Saquon Barkley, who almost had 160 yards in the air, 160 yards on the ground with 1 touchdown. And they can count how many yards he jumped up. He'd probably be at 160 because he caught a pass in the flat. He made this wicked spin move. I mean, this poor guy just he disappeared in the turf. How bad he got just sunk in there with the spin. And then he was running up to a guy, turned around, jumped up and over, and got like 2 more yards after that. I mean, what? How are you going to go 360 at one guy, and I guess he's trying to do 360 again, but he decided to jump. His quads are just massive. After the play, he's on silent going, ow. Because he's doing a little bit too much on that one. But, it was a funny aspect that they did that, but that he did that. But I was like, I think it's going to be the play of the year, really. I mean, there's been a lot of phenomenal catches, a lot of Odell-style catches, but we've seen Odell catches. We never see someone backwards hurdle another human being. I mean, that just doesn't happen. But for the Eagles, I think to succeed, they need to tell Sirianni stop making some random calls because that could affect them in the end. But they end up holding on to win. And we head over to Arizona for my final loss. And I picked the Bears because, well, I'm biased. And Arizona was just too much. I mean, Connor was effective in his run. He only had 100 yards, but he did everything he possibly could. Murray was just elusive, and the Bears couldn't really catch him. The Cardinals' defense was actually pretty good itself. They were keeping Caleb Williams on the run and sacking quite a bit. I mean, their biggest input was 9 points. They scored in that second quarter when we were trailing 21-9. But beyond that, Caleb Williams is digressing right now in his play. And DJ Moore actually had a play where Caleb was moving around and DJ Moore kept running, but DJ Moore actually went running out of bounds and then sat on the bench. Now, a lot of people go after DJ Moore for that one because he did it on his own. I myself also one of those individuals that you did it yourself, dude. But if he came back in and touched the ball, that would still been a penalty because you can't reestablish your presence on the field if you voluntarily go out. So, yeah, he was right in that aspect. Also wrong because he still kind of could have went back into the game and then came back and tried to help out his quarterback, maybe throwing a block if Caleb Williams decided to run. Those are other things he could have done, but that's part of the problem. And the Bears need to find ways to get back to what they had earlier in the season when they were having success with them. I guess they're hitting that meet in their schedule where they're going to run into some grinders. It's going to be a long process. I had high hopes. I was probably being a little too optimistic with their playoff chances. So I think I had them at number 6 or number 7, just getting it in, just ahead of Green Bay. That's right. I had them at 7, just getting it in, just barely squeaking in. But we'll have to see. I mean, there's still a plenty of games to play. And we'll kind of see how things will transpire after that one. Some other interesting aspects. If we looked at the game up in Seattle, it was definitely a back and forth. Nakio got kicked out of the game because he threw a punch in that first half of the game. So, yep, rivalry games. But it went to overtime, and it was a dime pass by Matthew Stafford. That was it. It was perfectly thrown. It was just they were fighting. He had getting his hand out just enough to boop, and that was it. I mean, beautiful pass. But yeah, the Rams won in overtime. And then Monday night we ended up going to overtime there, and trying to get things. Kareem Hunt found the end zone on the ground after 106 yards total. Kelsey had 100 yards. But with Kelsey there, then you also have DeAndre Hopkins. DeAndre Hopkins found the end zone. So now we have to worry about 2 veteran receivers. So the defense have to worry about 2 key aspects right now for Mahomes because he hadn't thrown 3 touchdowns overall. This game also went to overtime because Tampa Bay just doesn't know when to give up. And they came up in the fourth quarter, tied it, lost the coin toss, and couldn't stop Mahomes as he scored a touchdown on the only drive in OT. Let's go ahead and kick things off with Week 10's action in Baltimore for Thursday night in a huge AFC North showdown between Lamar Jackson and the Ravens and Joe Cool Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals. It's going to be a huge showdown between these two. Cincinnati has a lot of issues right now with the offense. The running game's kind of miscued, but they still have some premier receivers that Baltimore has to figure out how to shut down. But also they have to make sure they get in the backfield, disrupt Joe Burrow, disrupt him enough where he doesn't have the time to do it. Cincinnati is going to put up points. But I don't think Cincinnati's defense is going to stop this Baltimore offense. I mean, we have Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, kind of a 1-2 punch right there in the backfield. You don't know who's going to run the ball. Derrick Henry already has 1,000 yards on the ground. Lamar's 2,300 yards in the air with 20 TDs and only 2 picks. One of the reasons why Lamar is in the conversation for MVP. I think Derrick Henry is also quietly in that conversation as well. And Baltimore's defense has been kind of holding leads in the fourth quarter. Kind of the bend until okay, you guys got enough points. Okay, we're going to stop you now. But what they don't need is a repeat performance what they did against the Browns. And that could actually possibly happen. However, I do think Baltimore is going to be advantageous, trying to take care of the ball and ensure they put the points on the board. And right now, Baltimore's favored by 6. I am iffy on that one. I do think Cincinnati is going to make this a close game, closer than what Baltimore really wants. I think Baltimore's going to end up winning in the end, but I think it's going to be more like a 3-point game. Then on Sunday, we'll kick things off in Deutschland. That's right. NFL is back in Europe. This time we're going to Munich, Germany. And we're giving them this high-profile game of the Giants and the Panthers. Yeah, that's not a good thing. So the Carolina Reapers, which I think if that's ever a team name, that'd be perfect. I mean, Carolina Reapers. I mean, it's just because that's a pepper, hot pepper. I mean, perfect. And apparently they've been hammering coaches, and coaches have been getting fired because they lose to Carolina. So Dabo is on the hot seat, especially how the Giants right now are playing. They're just not playing up to their standard. I think Hubbard's going to find his ways to get in the end zone again. He'll definitely make it close. I think Bryce Young's going to find ways to try to come up there. Daniel Jones is just going to be Daniel Jones. You got to limit his mistakes. Neighbors should really get back into his some high production value. This is a very, very sloppy game to play in front of the German faithful, and I think the Germans are just going to be happy that we had an NFL game back in there. Maybe not happy of who's playing. Right now, the Giants are favored by 5.5. I am picking the Giants, but I'm going with a 2-point victory. This is just going to be ugly. All right, heading back to our regular scheduled program on Sunday. We head over to Chicago as the Bears play host to the Patriots, and the Bears have got to get their stuff straight. And right now, looking at these past 2 games, they're not. Something has to change in Chicago, and I think New England coming to town will help. New England's going to give them trouble because they're not going to take them seriously, or they're just going to allow them stick around too much. New England's defense will give Caleb Williams issues. Caleb Williams to make sure he makes some good choices. Don't cough up the ball too much. DeAndre Swift needs to be more focused as well. Maybe get short outlet passes and trying to spread out the offensive line. Then you start running, and then you start doing other things to try to help create and get Williams out there. Maybe DJ Moore can actually stay in bounds. Keenan Williams should be there. Cole Kmet should give him some good catches. Adonze. So there's actually receivers for Caleb Williams to throw to. He doesn't have offensive line to protect him very well. And he gets DeAndre Swift a little bit more into the action as well. The Bears defense need really to step up, corner, and keep Drake May from doing anything. I think New England's going to put points on Chicago. It's going to make this another game where Chicago fans are going to go, oh, no, here we go again. But I think I hope that Chicago find ways to win. Right now, Chicago is favored by 6. Once again, no. 3 points. This is going to be a 3-point affair. I think it's going to be a Caleb Williams drive at the end, and they're going to kick a winning field goal. I think this is how this game is going to go, and that's what they're going to need to build that confidence back up. Cable Williams build up confidence back up with his offense until they get to the heart of their divisional games. Over to the Brickyard in Indianapolis as the Colts play host to the Bills, and the Colts should have able to put some points up. Flacco's just finding ways to do it. The Bills, if you looked at the past couple of games, they've struggled quite a bit. So I won't be surprised if Indianapolis ends up trying to find ways to win this game. Josh Allen needs to tap into it because right now he's also in the conversation for MVP. And try to make sure that Amari Cooper gets in there, but I think he's also kind of dealing with some injury issues as well. So there's going to be some issues right now with the Buffalo offense. The defense has to step up and keep Flacco at bay. I almost went with Indianapolis just because of the aspect of Flacco and some of the other abilities that could actually transpire. Because Jonathan Taylor's doing pretty good for the Colts right now. 500 yards, 5 touchdowns. I mean, he averages almost 10 yards a game, 10 yards a carry. So it's something you have to really watch out for. And Buffalo's favored by 4. I like that odds a little bit better. I am going with the Bills. Chiefs playing host to the Broncos, and we kind of see if there's any leftover pain and stiffness from Patrick Mahomes from his game against Tampa Bay, because he did come up short, limping off the field on a touchdown pass. I thought that it was a knee. This was an ankle, and he came back out. So hopefully it's not too much. Kareem Hunt's starting to really thrive back into his role. Denver has shocked a lot of people where they're sitting at right now. Bo Nix has really thrived under this system. And with this being a divisional game, it's always hard to determine what's going to be, much like the Chiefs and Raiders earlier, a couple weeks ago, where I said that Raiders had all the earmarks and upset and almost was. So is this one. Denver plays very well in Kansas City. I have a feeling with their defense, they should be able to kind of stifle a little bit with Kansas City. Kansas City's not going to be undefeated for long. I mean, sooner or later, they're going to find ways to someone's going to find a way to finally knock them off the horse, which is not really going to hurt them too bad because they're so far ahead of everyone else. As I move my paper around in case you hear it. Kansas City's favored by 8. I'm going on a limb. I am taking Denver to win in KC. I know that's a tall order, especially since KC's undefeated at home. But sooner or later, they are going to lose. I do believe they're going to lose to divisional games, and that's where they're going to find their losses. Denver plays them tough. I think Denver could squeak out Kansas City with the W. Atlanta and New Orleans. There's too many issues right now with New Orleans. I don't. There's a bunch of finger pointing right now as well on the offense. I'm taking Atlanta. Kurt's going to keep them in the game because that's what he does. But yeah, right now Atlanta's favored by 4. I don't mind that one either. Falcons. We had the Buccaneers playing host to the 49ers. This one should have been interesting. Both these teams are kind of playing subpar football almost, but Tampa Bay's really been in all their games pretty much. They just always can't seem to close the door. It's like they love playing from behind, but then they just can't finish it off. And San Francisco just finds ways to play with what they have, even though they have a full cupboard of toys to play with. But a lot of those toys are broken or, need a little extra parts here and there. Little Band-Aids, maybe a battery or two. So they're playing with the ones that don't need all that work, and they're finding ways to win. That's just the Shanahan way. I don't know, just something about this game that I have to look at this one. Right now, San Francisco's favored by 5.5. I'm taking Tampa Bay to win at home. I know it's just a weird feeling about this game. It's kind of like that Denver-Kansas City game. It's just something has to give. Tampa Bay has to find ways to be able to – Baker's also finding ways to play with other receivers besides his 2 primary targets who have been injured. And he's been doing extremely well. He still makes bonehead throws. That's just Baker. But when push comes to shove, he's definitely a quarterback you want there because he finds a way to try to make those drives, especially get the games tied or at least get them close. Sometimes doesn't finish them, but he's always there. He's always competitive. He's always trying to get that W, no matter the situation. I have a feeling this is going to be one of these games that he's going to need to really elevate himself. I'm going to take Baker to knock off San Francisco. We had DC with a huge showdown between the Steelers and the Commanders. I think the two surprise teams right now of the NFL season. I think no one thought Pittsburgh would be 6-2 right now. Maybe a 5-4 or something like that. And Jane Daniels has taken the league by storm. Probably definitely getting, Rookie of the Year. But he's shy of 2,000 yards passing. He has 9 touchdowns, 2 picks, but he's also a dual threat with his running ability. McLaurin's really thriving under him, almost 600 yards receiving with 6 touchdowns. Najee Harris for the Steelers is really starting to get more of a focal point. Almost 600 yards on the ground, but only 2 touchdowns. Russell Wilson's finding ways to get in there, but now he has to worry about new acquisition by the Commanders for the secondary. And the Commanders have to worry about that defensive front by the Steelers. So I think it's going to be a key aspect with the Lattimore, by the way, for the Commanders in the secondary. And then which defense is going to be able to corral the offense. Now, I think Washington's offense is could be a little more explosive than Pittsburgh's. But does the experience of Russell Wilson help lead the Steelers ahead? Right now, Washington's favored by 3. I mean, it could be that way, but I will take Pittsburgh to win. But I'm actually uneasy about this one because I think Washington has the ability to beat them. But, this is going to be a hard-fought battle. Head over to Jacksonville, where the Jaguars play host to the Vikings. And Jacksonville has been so close in these games recently. They just can't seem to get that next gear to get that victory. And they're taking on this juggernaut that is the Vikings and their offensive prowess. With Jefferson and Jones being, the two main points of that one. And Sam Darnold getting a resurrection career right now in Minnesota. Unfortunately, thanks to the injury to J.J. McCarthy. But finally, thriving in the system. He had that year in San Francisco where he had a couple of games. He's used to the offense with the very similar offense in Minnesota, so he's able to adapt pretty quickly. And he's thrived. He's lived up to the hype that he's supposed to have when he was drafted by the Jets. But, of course, that was the Jets. But Jacksonville is just one of these feisty teams. Trevor Lawrence, 2,000 yards in the air, 11 touchdowns, 6 picks. And that's what he's got to try to eliminate as much as he possibly can, the amount of interception he throws. And that's going to be an issue because he had that game-costing interception in Philadelphia that tanked that one. Had issues with the Green Bay game. He could have won that one too. I mean, 2 games there he could have won. I picked him to win the Green Bay game and didn't. Right now, Minnesota's favored by 5.5. I think it's going to be another close contest. I think it's going to be Minnesota's going to end up winning this game, but it's going to be a lot closer. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a 2-point affair. I am taking the Vikings to win on the road. Then we over to SoFi as the Chargers play host to the Titans. Mason Rudolph taking on Justin Herbert. I like the Chargers in this one. I mean, they had an ugly game in Cleveland. There's going to be an ugly game here. Rudolph's definitely going to put some points up. Right now, Chargers are favored by 7.5. I think the Chargers still win, but I think it's going to be more 6. So I'll probably take the Titans for the points, but Chargers for the win. Then we head to the No D. The Dallas Cowboys, they play host to the division rival Philadelphia Eagles. And there's going to be a lot of drive to beat the Eagles, the division rival, the team that's starting to really thrive, but things are not going well for the Cowboys. There's no Dak. So they got Cooper Rush trying to pass to CeeDee Lamb. Zeke Elliott, nothing like he used to be. So that no rushing attack. Now the Dallas Cowboys have to try to stop Saquon Barkley and see if they don't become highlight reels as well with spin moves and hurdles. It all depends on the coaches. It really does. This is also a game that Michael Parsons could return, which could make a huge impact on this game if that happens. But it comes down to the coaches. Which coach is going to make the least amount of mistakes, McCarthy or Sirianni? They both make some. Sirianni kind of does, aggressive when he doesn't be aggressive, and conservative when he should be aggressive. So he's kind of a mixed bag when it comes to that. McCarthy just has bad, sometimes game management. But with Cooper Rush now back there, I mean, he's proven pretty effective in the past. It's not the same Cowboys team then. And if, the Eagles take away CeeDee Lamb, who else do they got? The tight ends seem pretty good. But beyond that, not much else. The offensive line's missing. The defensive line can't stop a run. They can't find a way outside of a wet paper bag with three sides missing. And that's why they call it Dallas Cowboys. There's like no D, no Dak, no direction. I mean, this is how it is. I'm taking Philadelphia. They are favored by 7. I think it's going to be more like a 5-point game. It's going to be one of these odd score games, but I do think Philadelphia wins on the road. The Jets will then land out in Arizona to take on the Cardinals, and this one is split. You can pick and choose because the way the Cardinals are playing, I think they can beat anyone right now. They're just a feisty little team. No pun intended for Kyler Murray. But he finds ways to get in there. Especially got Marvin Harrison Jr. really being his new best friend. The defense is finding ways to revitalize itself. And the Cardiac Cards are kind of returning to that aspect. They find ways to stay in games. I mean, had that game in Buffalo beginning of the season. They could have won. They just fell apart at the end. The Jets had a resurrection of themselves last week against Houston. Can they take that momentum moving forward? That's going to be a difficult thing to see. That Jets defense came alive. Can it repeat itself as well against a feisty Cardinals offense that has, their star receiver? So that's going to be a definitely a different aspect. And can the Cardinals stop the Jets receivers? I mean, you got Garrett Wilson, who is finally starting to live up, and then Devontae Adams being, the nice security blanket that Rodgers likes. And can Rodgers stay upright with a weak offensive line against a very formidable defensive front by the Cardinals? Like I said, this is a pick'em game. The line's right down the middle, and I'm going with Arizona. I just don't think the Jets will have able to sustain it. I think right now the momentum is in Arizona's court. They could be the shocker team in the NFC when it comes to the playoffs. So we'll have to see. And then Sunday night, we head to H-Town, a huge showdown between the Lions and the Texans. And this should be a pretty good showing. With a new acquisition for the Lions on the defensive front, C.J. Stroud's going to have a hard time getting going. And Mixon has to make sure he gets in the mix. But Gibbs for the Lions is definitely a plus for them. So the Houston defense is make sure they stop the run, but they don't give Goff time frame to find his receiver, especially Amon St. Brown. Make sure he doesn't do any more headstands in the end zone. This is going to be a very tightly fought game between these two teams. Both of them are undefeated in terms of home and road perspective. And I wouldn't be surprised if Houston pulled this out. I really wouldn't. But I will give it to Detroit, the way they just seem to be gelling right now. They're just doing whatever they want. They went into Green Bay and won in the elements. It's like, wait a minute, they're an outdoor team. You're not supposed to do that. And they did it. It all depends on the receiving core for the Texans, if they're back or not. Signs point that may not be back. So I will go with Detroit to win. Right now they're favored by 3.5. Kind of like that as well, Lions. Then Monday night, Tua and the Dolphins head out to L.A. to take on Matthew Stafford and the Rams. And this is going to be a interesting game, to say the least. Because Matthew Stafford, if he has his receivers available, he's pretty good. Tua has his receivers available. He's pretty good. But the Rams, I think, has a better running attack. Defensive-wise, I think the Rams may be slightly better. This should be a good matchup between the two. I might see this more of a shootout between these two offenses. I think defense may not apply. You get these two offensive coaches going at it. Kind of like this a while. This one's a very close game as well. 1 point advantage by the Rams. I like that. I think this will be a very tight matchup. I wouldn't be surprised if Miami actually end up winning this game. But I will take the Rams because they're home. And they kind of need that to keep in pace in that NFC West, where it's a 4-team race and it's like anyone's game. But I think they need that to keep pace with the Cardinals. Okay, there we go. There are my picks. Like I said, I try and get short, sweet. A lot of these videos I've been doing lately have been extremely long, so I do apologize for that. But try to get these short and sweet, get to the point. Short week this week because you have 4 teams that are off. The game in Germany should end the NFL early games. And we're coming down to the wire. Teams are trying to separate, trying to establish themselves, looking for that number 1 seed for the conference because it gives them that first round bye. And then after that, try to win your division because then you get a home game, or at least trying to get into the dance. Because then once you hit that second season, anything can happen. But what do you think about my picks? What do you think I got wrong? I probably got a lot of things wrong. I doubt I'll be able to have only 4 losses. I do expect probably more. When it comes to Thursday night, you must have put an L there. I do really bad for some reason. I don't think I had one Thursday night. Anyway, looking back at my other picks, I think 1, 2, 2. I got 2 Thursday night games right out of 9. So not very good for a Thursday night. But no, we think I got wrong. We think I got right. One game looking forward to this weekend. Is your team still in the hunt for a playoff position, or possibly even a deeper playoff run? Let's mix it up in the comments below. The more we interact, the better views boost in the algorithm this video would get. Also get a thumbs up, especially like what I do. It really helps, like I said, do the next thing, that almighty YouTube algorithm. If you like what I do, like the ramblings I go about and strange tangents and the stutterings and whatnot, you can support this channel. A lot of you guys review my work. I love y'all for doing that. Not me subscribe. It doesn't cost anything. You hit that subscribe button, click that bell icon, turn on notifications so next time I post any more content on my channel. And I'll see you next time. Chat Sports Talk.